You might be holding just a dime, but what if I told you that this tiny coin could be far more valuable than you think? If you have this coin in your pocket, you might be the luckiest person in this entire world, because what you are about to hear is not just a story about a simple one-dime coin. It is a story about hidden history, extreme rarity, and a silent treasure that most people overlook every single day without even realizing its true value. Imagine holding a coin so small, so ordinary in appearance, that millions of people have spent it without a second thought. But hidden inside this tiny piece of metal is a secret that collectors around the world are desperately searching for. A secret that has turned forgotten dimes into life-changing fortunes. And today, we are going deep into one of the most mysterious examples ever discussed in the coin collecting world, the 1991 P1 dime. Before we even talk about value, before we even talk about why collectors are going crazy for it, you need to understand one thing very clearly. Coins like this were never meant to make ordinary people rich. They were created for circulation, for everyday use, for vending machines, for pocket change. But sometimes, history makes mistakes. And when those mistakes happen inside a mint, something extraordinary is born. The 1991 P dime is part of the Roosevelt dime series, a coin design that has been circulating in the United States for decades. It carries the face of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a man who led the country through some of its darkest times. His image on the dime represents hope, strength, and recovery. Most people see it every day and never think twice about it. But what if I told you that one specific version of this dime, minted in 1991 with the P mint mark, has become one of the most talked about coins among collectors? Not because it looks different at first glance, but because of what might be hidden in its production history, its rarity and high-grade condition, and the demand that has quietly built up over time. Now here's where the story becomes even more interesting. In the world of coin collecting, rarity is everything. A coin does not need gold or silver to be valuable. It does not need to be ancient. It only needs three things: scarcity, demand, and condition. And when these three align perfectly, even a simple dime can turn into something worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. And that is exactly why people are now paying attention to the 1991 P dime. Because in perfect condition, under professional grading, certain examples of this coin have shocked the market. Coins that look completely normal in everyday lighting suddenly become premium collectibles when examined under magnification. Tiny details, minting quality, strike precision, and preservation all begin to matter more than anything else. Collectors have spent years studying these dimes, searching rolls, searching bank bags, searching old collections stored in drawers, jars, and forgotten boxes. Because the truth is simple, most valuable coins are not found in museums. They are found in ordinary homes. And that is what makes this story so powerful. Right now, somewhere in your house, in an old wallet, in a jar filled with change, or even inside your pocket right now, there could be a coin that looks exactly like every other dime, but could be worth far more than anyone would ever expect. And this is where most people make a huge mistake. They assume value is obvious. They think if a coin is worth money, it must look special, shiny, or different. But in reality, the most dangerous coins in the market, the ones that surprise people the most, are the ones that look completely normal. The 1991 P dime fits perfectly into this category. At first glance, it is just another small coin. Copper and nickel composition, standard Roosevelt design, standard size, standard circulation coin. Nothing visually dramatic, nothing that screams rare. But collectors don't judge coins the way normal people do. They look deeper. They examine strike quality. They study mint errors. They analyze surface preservation. And most importantly, they compare surviving population numbers and high grades. And when they did that with the 1991 P dime, something interesting started to appear. High-grade examples became surprisingly difficult to find. Not because the coin itself was extremely rare in circulation, but because finding it in near-perfect mint condition is a completely different story. Coins pass through millions of hands. They get scratched, worn, damaged, and ignored. But the ones that escape this journey, the ones that stay preserved, those are the ones that become valuable. And slowly, over time, collectors began noticing that pristine 1991 P dimes were not as common as expected. And whenever something becomes harder to find in top condition, the value begins to rise. But here is where things take an even more shocking turn. Because in certain auction cases, professionally graded high-condition examples of this coin have reached figures that ordinary people would never believe at first. Some listings and collector transactions have placed extraordinary value expectations on the finest known examples, with figures reaching into the thousands, and in rare hype-driven cases and exceptional grading scenarios, discussions around much higher valuations have appeared in collector communities, sometimes even being mentioned around the $80,000 mark for top-tier, flawless specimens under highly specific conditions. And this is exactly why this coin has created so much attention online. Because imagine hearing that a dime, a 10-cent coin, could potentially be worth more than a luxury car, more than a house deposit, more than most people earn in years. It sounds unbelievable, almost impossible. And yet, in the world of rare coin collecting, surprises like this happen more often than people think. But before we get carried away, we need to go deeper. We need to understand how this coin was made, what makes a mint mark important, how grading changes everything, and why two coins that look identical can have completely different values. Because once you understand that, you will never look at pocket change the same way again. And in the next part of this story, we will break down the hidden details of the 1991 P dime, the minting process, the collector demand, and the exact reasons why certain examples suddenly become the center of attention in the coin world. And trust me, what comes next will completely change the way you think about everyday money. If you have this coin in your pocket right now, stop everything, because what I'm about to tell you might completely change the way you look at everyday money forever. This is not just another small piece of metal. This is not just another 10-cent coin that passes through millions of hands every single day. This is something that has quietly become a topic of discussion among collectors, coin hunters, and treasure seekers around the world. And the most shocking part is, most people don't even realize it exists. We are talking about the 1987 D Roosevelt dime. At first glance, it looks completely normal. Nothing special. Nothing unusual. You might even have seen it dozens of times without ever paying attention. It has the same familiar portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the same size, the same silver-colored appearance, and the same everyday circulation purpose. But here is where the story begins to take a turn. Because in the world of coin collecting, value is not always about how a coin looks at first glance. Sometimes, value is hidden in tiny details that only trained eyes can detect. Sometimes, value is created by rarity that develops over time. And sometimes, value is born simply because people start paying attention to something that was ignored for decades. And the 1987 D dime falls into one of those mysterious categories. Let's go back for a moment. The Roosevelt dime series began in 1946, shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The design was created to honor his legacy, especially his connection with the March of Dimes campaign, which supported the fight against polio. Since then, this dime has been produced continuously, year after year, across different U.S. mint facilities. The D mint mark on the 1987 D dime tells us it was struck in Denver. The Denver Mint has produced billions of coins over the decades, and in 1987 alone, massive quantities of dimes were released into circulation. That means, logically, most people would assume this coin is extremely common and has no special value beyond its face value. And for 99.9% of examples, that is true. But coin collecting is not about the 99.9%. It is about the rare 0.1% that tells a completely different story. Because while millions of 1987 D dimes were made, not all of them survived in perfect condition. Not all of them were handled carefully. Not all of them avoided scratches, wear, cleaning damage, environmental exposure, or circulation abuse. And this is where everything changes. Imagine a coin minted in 1987. It enters circulation immediately. It passes through hundreds, maybe thousands of hands. It gets used in vending machines, cash registers, parking meters, gas stations, and store counters. It gets tossed into pockets, dropped on the ground, rubbed against keys, and stored in jars with other coins. Now fast forward almost 4 decades. How many of those coins do you think still exist in perfect, untouched condition? The answer is very few. And that is where collectors begin to pay attention. Because in the coin world, condition is everything. A coin that looks slightly worn might be worth only face value. But the same coin, in near-perfect mint state condition, can suddenly become significantly more desirable. Professional grading services evaluate coins under high magnification. They look at luster, strike quality, surface preservation, and tiny imperfections that most people would never notice. And when a coin like the 1987 D-dime is found in extremely high grades, something interesting happens. It enters the collector market. Now, let's be clear about something very important. The 1987 D-dime is not a rare mint error coin by default. It is not a silver dime. It is not a limited edition release. It is a standard circulation coin. But what makes it interesting is not its basic version. It is the exceptional examples that survive in top condition. Because collectors often build registry sets of Roosevelt dimes, where every year and mint mark must be represented in the highest possible grade. And for that reason, coins like the 1987 D in perfect condition suddenly become important pieces of a larger puzzle. And when demand increases for high-grade examples, prices begin to move. Now imagine this. Two 1987 D dimes. One is heavily circulated, scratched, and worn. It is worth exactly 10 cents. The other is flawless, with strong original luster, sharp details, and no visible imperfections even under magnification. That coin could be graded by professionals and placed into a certified holder, instantly making it a collector's item. And in the collector world, certified high-grade coins often attract serious buyers. But here is where things get even more interesting. Sometimes, coins like this appear in mint sets or rolls that were never properly circulated. Sometimes they are stored away in drawers, forgotten for decades, untouched, and preserved in time. And when those coins finally resurface, they shock people. Because what looked like ordinary pocket change suddenly turns into a premium collectible. And this is the moment where most people make a huge mistake. They underestimate modern coins. They think only old coins are valuable. They think only silver coins matter. They think only rare mint errors can bring money. But the truth is far more surprising. Modern coins, especially in high grades, can still hold strong collector demand. Not because they are ancient, but because they represent condition rarity. And condition rarity is one of the most powerful forces in coin collecting. It means the coin is not rare because of how many were made, but because of how few survived in top condition. Now, let's talk about why people online sometimes get excited about coins like the 1987 D-dime. Social media has changed coin collecting forever. Videos showing valuable coins in your pocket change spread quickly. People start checking their jars, wallets, and old collections. And suddenly, coins that were ignored for years become trending topics. The 1987 D-dime is often included in discussions about collectible modern coins, especially in pristine condition or special mint sets. But here is the reality check that experienced collectors always mention. Most 1987 D-dimes you find are still worth face value. However, if you find one in absolutely pristine condition, with strong eye appeal and professional grading potential, it can become a desirable collectible piece for serious Roosevelt dime collectors. And that is the key difference. Not every coin is rare. Not every coin is valuable. But every coin has the potential to be something more if it exists in the right condition. And that is what makes coin collecting so powerful. It turns ordinary, everyday objects into potential hidden treasures. So the next time you receive change, the next time you open an old jar of coins, the next time you see a dime sitting in your hand without a second thought, stop for a moment. Look closer. Because while most coins are just coins, some coins carry stories, history, and collector demand that most people will never notice. And the 1987 D-dime is a perfect example of that hidden world. A world where small details matter. A world where condition can change everything. And a world where even 10 cents can sometimes become something far more interesting to collectors than anyone would expect. And in the next part of this story, we will go even deeper into error types, minting variations, collector demand, and what specific features you should actually look for if you ever want to know whether your 1987 D-dime is just pocket change or something worth saving. Because what comes next might surprise you even more than you think. And now, as we come to the end of this story, take a moment and think about everything you just learned. Because what most people see as ordinary pocket change can sometimes carry hidden value, hidden history, and hidden opportunity right in the palm of their hand. The 1987 D dime is a perfect example of this truth. On the surface, it looks like nothing special, just a small coin, used and forgotten in everyday life. But when you understand the world of coin collecting, when you understand condition, rarity, preservation, and collector demand, you start to realize something powerful. Even the most common coins can become extraordinary when the right factors align. Maybe it's a coin stored in a drawer for decades. Maybe it's a coin that was never spent. Maybe it's a coin sitting in a jar right now without anyone noticing it. And that is exactly why collectors never stop searching. Because they know one simple truth: treasures are not always hidden in treasure chests. Sometimes they are hiding in plain sight. But remember this very carefully. Not every coin is rare. Not every dime will make you rich. And most coins you find will still be worth their face value. But the real excitement of coin collecting is not just about value. It is about possibility. The possibility that something ordinary might turn out to be something special. So the next time you hear a dime drop into your hand, don't ignore it too quickly. Take a second look. Check the date. Check the condition. Because in this world, awareness is everything. And who knows? One day, something as small as a dime could be the very thing that makes you stop, smile, and realize that history was in your hands all along. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay connected for more hidden coin stories, rare discoveries, and valuable secrets from the world of numismatics. Because the next coin we talk about might just be even more surprising than this one. See you in the next video. If you have this coin in your pocket right now, don't rush to spend it, because what you are holding might look ordinary, but the story behind it is far more interesting than most people ever realize. Today we are talking about the 2012 D Roosevelt dime. At first glance, it looks completely normal. A small 10-cent coin, silver-colored, worn by time, passing through millions of hands every single day. Most people see it, use it, and forget it within seconds. It blends perfectly into everyday life, almost invisible in value and attention. But here is the truth that most people never stop to think about. Even modern coins like this one carry a hidden story. Not because they are rare in the traditional sense, but because they are part of a massive system of production, precision, and sometimes unexpected variation that collectors quietly pay attention to. And sometimes, even the most ordinary-looking coin can become interesting when you start looking at it the right way. The 2012 D dime was minted in Denver, as indicated by the small D mark. It belongs to the long-running Roosevelt dime series, which began in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt. His legacy is tied not only to leadership during a critical time in history, but also to his connection with the March of Dimes campaign that helped fight polio in the United States. That's why his face is still on this coin today. A symbol of resilience, a symbol of recovery, and a reminder of an important chapter in history that continues to circulate through everyday money. Now, when the Denver Mint produced the 2012 D dime, it wasn't something limited or special. It was a standard circulation coin made in huge numbers. Millions upon millions were released into everyday use. Gas stations, stores, vending machines, parking meters. This coin was designed to move constantly. And that is exactly why most people assume it has no collectible value. But coin collecting doesn't always follow simple assumptions. Because while the majority of 2012 D dimes are common and only worth face value, collectors are not always looking for common. They are looking for condition, quality, and sometimes unusual characteristics that separate one coin from another. And this is where things get interesting. Imagine two coins that were born in the same year, from the same mint, on the same machines. One is heavily circulated, scratched, dull, and worn down from years of use. That coin is worth exactly 10 cents. But the other one, the one that was never really exposed to circulation, the one that stayed in near-perfect condition, the one that still has strong luster, sharp details, and clean surfaces, that coin enters a completely different category. Because in the world of numismatics, condition is a powerful factor. Professional grading services evaluate coins under high magnification. They examine the tiniest details, the shine of the metal, the sharpness of Roosevelt's portrait, the smoothness of the fields, and even microscopic marks that most people would never see without special tools. And when a modern coin like the 2012 D dime is found in extremely high mint state condition, It can become part of collector sets, especially Roosevelt dime collections that aim for perfection across every year. But here's something very important to understand. Unlike rare error coins or silver collectibles from earlier decades, the 2012 D dime is not generally considered rare in circulation. Most of them are still very common. So it is not a coin that suddenly becomes extremely valuable in normal conditions. However, that does not mean it is completely ignored, because collectors sometimes search for perfect grade examples, coins that look as if they were freshly minted yesterday. And those coins, while not life-changing in value, can still carry a premium compared to regular pocket change. And then there is another angle that always excites people: mint errors. Occasionally, during the minting process, small mistakes can happen. A coin might be struck slightly off-center. It might show doubling in letters or numbers. It might have minor planchet issues or unusual surface characteristics. These types of errors are not common, but when they do appear, they can make a standard-looking coin suddenly more interesting to collectors. And that is why coin hunters always look closely, not just at the date, but at every detail. Because sometimes, the difference between a normal coin and a collectible one is not obvious at first glance. It requires attention, patience, and a careful eye. But let's be realistic for a moment. The 2012 D dime in normal condition is still worth just 10 cents. That is the truth most of the time. It is a modern circulation coin, and millions are still out there today. However, the value of understanding coins like this is not just about money. It is about awareness. Because once you start noticing small details in everyday coins, you begin to understand something deeper: that money itself carries layers of history, production, and design that most people completely ignore. And that is what makes coin collecting so fascinating. It is not just about finding something rare. It is about learning to see value where others see nothing. So the next time you receive change, or open an old jar of coins, or find a dime sitting quietly in your hand, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a moment. Look at the year. Look at the condition. Look for anything unusual. Because while most coins will always remain ordinary, the habit of observing closely is what separates a casual spender from a true coin enthusiast. And who knows, even if you don't find something rare, you might still discover a deeper appreciation for the small details that exist in everyday life. Because sometimes, value is not just about price. Sometimes, value is about perspective. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Because in the world of coins, there is always another story waiting to be discovered, and the next one might surprise you even more than this one. And now we reach the end of today's journey. But before you go, take a moment to really think about what you just learned. Because the 2012 D Roosevelt dime is not just another coin passing through your hands. It represents something much bigger. It represents the hidden world that exists inside everyday money. A world most people never notice, and most people never question. Every coin has a story of where it was made, a story of how it entered circulation, a story of how it traveled from hand to hand, place to place, year after year. And even though most 2012 D dimes will always remain simple 10-cent coins, the real value of learning about them is not just about finding something rare. It's about training your eyes to see differently. Because once you start paying attention to small details, you begin to realize something powerful. Opportunities are often hidden in the most ordinary places. Maybe it's in your pocket right now. Maybe it's in an old jar on a shelf. Maybe it's in a handful of change you never bothered to check. But the truth is simple. You will never know unless you look. And that is exactly why coin collecting continues to inspire people all over the world. It turns everyday objects into mysteries. It turns ordinary moments into discoveries. And sometimes, it turns a simple dime into a reason to stop and appreciate history in your hands. So the next time you see a coin, don't just spend it without thinking. Take a second. Look closer. Because awareness is the first step toward discovery. And who knows? The next coin you examine might not just be change. It might be a story waiting to be uncovered. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us again for more hidden coin stories and surprising discoveries. Because in the world of coins, the next surprise is always just one coin away.